All right, so we've gotten the machine clean. And that kind of brought me to a point because we had some shavings still obviously left in the machine in the tray. And as I mentioned, this is some 600-year-old wood that is, pretty magnificent. And so I was like, well, this has to smell great with some incense. And that actually chimed me right into the next point of everything, and that's, before I jump into this today, like deep, because this is kind of like a blend between the technical slash, the creative. So when those two forces get together, I like to set the stage for them so they can both work together. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the left and the right hemispheres of the brain and, getting them to work together. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab a carafe real quick here, or actual container to hold some incense. All right, and so here's some cool tips about lighting the incense. As we've talked about, the natural incense are just, I know anybody who has gotten some and are burning them now are like, okay, yeah, this is for sure on point. So here's a tip, go down to your local beach or wherever, grab some sand. Dirt will do the same thing, and bring it home with you in a container. It has tons of uses. I can give you like 50 uses for beach sand, but one of the uses is when you're burning your incense, it doesn't matter really what you're burning them in. This is a glass ashtray. It doesn't matter what you're burning them in. Generally, if you have this charcoal briquette inside of the sand, then whatever you're holding it in won't get hot. And that means that you can also transport it if you want to move it. It's just much more easier to handle, and it keeps you from getting burned, and kind of reduces the fire hazard, or the potential for a fire hazard. So let's just start off by setting some intentions, and these intentions are for us to go through this process smoothly. And if that's obviously a great intention when you're dealing with the technologies and you're dealing with your creativity, and then you have quirks and things that can happen from time to time, so you want to keep your mind clear. And even if you do face some issues, to not get really frustrated, but to just keep going at it, and then also to remember your procedures. So with something like what we're doing right now, because we're working with this specific machine, one of the main procedures is actually getting the media itself, which is obviously the piece of wood, fixed to the table properly, and so that it doesn't move while it's being machined, and also kind of to make the decision if we need to actually level it, because if it's coming across a straight line and it's equally flat, which very few things actually are, but if it's completely flat, then it's perfect. But if it's not completely flat, then sometimes it needs to be machined first. So we're going to look into that actually right now, but before we do, right here in a moment, but before we do that, we're going to go ahead and set these intentions for a great level of clarity as we're going into this endeavor, and that we continuously be mindful of every action that we make while we're going into something like this, just remembering why we're going through this, why we're doing this. That way your intentions stay at the forefront of your consciousness. And then, there's different parts of this. So there's some that will engage more of your mental side. There's some that will engage more of your feelings and more of your emotional side. So we're going to work to keep a balance between the two. So I'm going to go ahead and light this with that intention. With some wild new charcoals I got. I'm starting to realize that all charcoals are created equal. Interesting fact about charcoal is it's actually one of the best water purifiers. There's actually a bamboo charcoal piece that comes from Japan, and it's pretty efficient at sticking into your household water jug or whatever and letting it suck the toxins out of there. So charcoal is just amazing. So even when just that briquette is burning and it's starting to heat up, and just that smell is just really clean. Like, they even use obviously charcoal and air filters, so charcoal is a really, really strong purifier. It just has so many amazing properties, right? But some people just take it for granted. You know, never see charcoal. You know, there's so many other things, right? So like the basics, the foundations to this plane. All right, so I'm gonna give this a minute. I've learned to, you know, give it a minute, to not just immediately start putting incense on the top of it. It kind of stops it from heating up all the way, and then you end up not getting a complete burn out of the entire piece of charcoal, which is, you know, kind of a bummer, because, you know, it's still consumption to some degree, so you want to preserve it as much as possible. Yeah, these meditation classes are going to be interesting, because I actually get a chance to just sit there and say absolutely nothing for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you know, however long that meditation course is. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get some frankincense on here. First. And Palo Santo, my favorite. Two partners in Sublime. Oh wow, the Palo's upstairs today, so that means that is gonna be the Copal. Okay. All right, so we'll add that in a minute, since that's, you know, such a strong scent. As always, I like to burn the sage first. Actually, oh, that's why Palo Santo wasn't here. We got his cousin. We'll go ahead and take a little bit of these wood shavings and see how that works out. See if we can come in a little closer with that. That off of there, just because I know I got sand on there, but that is not wood, that is plastic. So here we go, let's see. All right, so we're coming for some intentions to just really keep the space clear today, and, you know, let it all roll smooth. The stuff works, it's worked before, never any problems, so I just want to go forward with that and put most of our energy into the actual intention of what we're creating versus support. All right, so we have some nice wood on the fire. I'm going to go ahead and get these uploaded. I did want to talk about briefly, I guess I want to talk about my equipment loadout really briefly and how I'm getting this stuff online really fast. I'm using the Garmin Verb 360, as everybody knows. It lets me do 360 footage. It also lets me do these super wide angle shots that keep me from having a bunch of cameras and trying to worry about that. And then I also can even upload these right from my cell phone, even though I'm not doing that today, because when I do that, it does tie up my phone, and it does tie up the camera itself. So I have this all going through. I actually just had a little brief power outage. You may have not saw it in the time lapse, and it was just because I plugged the vacuum cleaner into my low voltage setup, which I kind of have customized specifically for a backup system, because we're in Costa Rica, Pura Vida. So there's sometimes some outages that happen here from time to time. So actually, I meant to reboot my computer anyway, so that works out perfect. I've been trying to reboot my computer all day, and actually for the last 3 days. And then some stuff just stops working, so I'm like, man, reboot. And so there's also been, it's funny because it literally today is like my shift gears day, because the last, I would say at least since the last Sunday, the last ambassador training has been really technical heavy, a lot about architecture, framework, you know, looking at systems. You know, I've been trying out a lot of systems, signing up for them, and then just kind of like seeing how well they work, and, you know, how well they'll work for us. I've started noticing sometimes you should always plan for the future more so sometimes than right now. Just start using something and then browse through it. Don't necessarily think you're going to use it now and see what kind of potential it has, because sometimes when we're looking for something like right away to fix a solution, we kind of blow past stuff that either doesn't look directly like a solution or is not giving us everything we want at that point. And so this is just kind of giving some blah 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 right now until I get this loaded. So but yeah, so in a nutshell, I'm in a point where I'm really curating and cultivating a lot of things, and so it demands that I use certain processes to really make sure I'm getting to what I'm looking for. So here's what we got. So I'm actually using ScreenFlow. I use ScreenFlow to render this really fast. I use ScreenFlow to do screen captures and stuff like that. I also use Vidyard Pro. Vidyard Pro is actually built into the Chrome browser and it's free. And this is just really if you wanted to do a quick recording of your screen capture or whatever you have on your screen, and also bring in your camera, like your webcam or whatever. What I'm doing is I'm bringing in these files, and the reason why I ran it through ScreenFlow, which I admit is not my super favorite, is just because I could drop it into the timeline, I can really turn the audio up, I can render it out right away, versus when I jump in the Final Cut, for some reason it takes me a bit longer, because they have much more of a standard procedure that they want you to go through. So let's look at this recording. I actually rendered it out mobile size to see if I can get it as small as possible, and let me find that. So actually it should be on the desktop, so let me just sort this by date created. Okay, let's just see where that would have gone. Uh-oh. We don't want this to turn into boring technical. There it is. Okay, so projector time. Okay, so that's my projector video, and it has come out at 302 megabytes, not too bad. So I'm gonna drop that right over to WhatsApp into our group so we can get started. And so that's the workflow I'm using today. I'm just gonna take the videos, render them out, shoot them up to WhatsApp, and just keep that process going.